Aloha, everyone. This is Tony with the Transformation Space. I've had a lot of questions about transformation in unordinary states of consciousness. This may be in mindfulness or breath work or use of psychedelics. And there's a lot of power within these spaces done correctly. Right? These are not panaceas, they are doors to be opened to let us see inside in ways that we might not be able to in a normal state of consciousness. And there's great value in this. And one of the most important things is to be able to step away from what our default mode network has programmed for us, and to step outside of ourselves to see a different way of being, perhaps a different narrative, perhaps seeing our narrative for the first time. We are living in ourselves and experiencing within, and so separating from that experience helps us get a better objective on what's actually happening. And non-ordinary states of consciousness can do these things. So there's a couple different aspects to be aware of when we're thinking about these things. And one, as I mentioned, is breaking free of those mental defaults. So I had a wonderful analogy that was I read in a couple different articles that was talking about how on a ski slope, after a freshly snowed day, we ski down this mountain and create tracks. And we go back up to the mountain and we ski back down those tracks. And we go back up to the mountain and we ski back down those tracks. And pretty soon, that's the only tracks that we're skiing is these tracks that have been grooved deeply into the snow. And we don't veer outside of that. And one way we can look at psychedelic work, and specifically, is if you shook that snow globe and all those deep tracks went away and you were free to ski wherever you wanted to ski. And that is, in essence, what we're doing when we step out of this normal state of consciousness. We are looking at doing things, moving in ways that maybe are different than what we've been doing. Different parts of our brain connect, different signals are responded to in different ways, and we see things differently. So it's a huge, huge part of it. Research also shows that there's a number of wonderful plasticity benefits, specifically involving neurogenesis and in the way the brain reacts in general. So really creating new pathways for us to think and see and understand ourselves. So it's incredibly transformative used in the appropriate way. Also assessing the unconsciousness is our subconscious is a really important aspect because it's such a driver for what we do, right? All of these things that have been built into us from a long time ago that we don't probably have memories of, some, but are still driving forces behind the decisions that we're making. Getting into see that and understand that is incredible, because once we have an understanding of what's beyond what we can access in this state of consciousness, we can start to make decisions and intentional choices in our lives based upon what some of those drivers may have been. So, for instance, if we were, I refer back to childhood quite a bit because so many things that we do are stem from that point in our life, because we were taught things, we were shown things, we observed things, we learned things that developed this persona of who we are. We were socialized in ways that really were not us writing the story, it was someone else writing the story, and so we're in that, and we're doing that oftentimes subconsciously. So I too tend to refer back to that. But if we learned certain tactics to create survival for us, or felt like our existence was validated by helping people, and we're constantly seeking out others that we perceive need help, and we're trying to help people without them asking, It causes a lot of dysfunction within relationships. This is something that I frequently encounter working with clients, and also the work that I've done for myself. That those of us that want to help, it's coming from a great place, but we approach it in a way where it's more about validating our own self worth and finding people that we perceive need help. I mean, some of us are just really good at seeking these other individuals out and intertwining in a very codependent relationship based upon trying to get our needs met without really understanding why we're doing this. It's unfortunate and incredibly dysfunctional, and it's also one of those situations where society says, how great you are for helping people, right? And really, that is our intention. It's just the motivation behind it is deeply embedded in our subconscious. So, unwinding these motivators with non-ordinary states of consciousness has a really incredible impact on our ability to step away from doing some of these things. And mindfulness is a great way to keep track of what's happening. Such an incredible reflection place for us to be able to allow our thoughts and perceptions come in and out, and really give us a chance to understand and receive the information that we need from within. Those are moments that we do re- are able to process and understand what we need inside from inside. A lot of people find that there is a sense of connection within these spaces as well, a feeling of something greater, being connected to something greater, and stepping outside of ourselves, which is massive because when we are so focused on ourselves, and as we know, the ego likes to keep us in that place for multiple safety reasons and functionality, but understanding when that's in play is really important. So being able to step away from yourself and, in essence, look back in an objective perspective instead of being fully subjective gives you a lot of great insight. And again, these are things that can be done. I think that it's really important to understand the critical role of pre and post work, meaning intention setting and integration. So, these non-ordinary states of consciousness are simply, again, doors that are being opened or windows that are being opened to look further inside or objectively look from the outside. But if we do not prepare ourselves for the experience in multiple ways, not only our physical setting, but our internal mental setting on what we are ready to be open to, because we are wired to survive, and if we are not feeling like we are able to be safe and connected in a way that we can look into these areas of our mind's not going to let us do it. It doesn't matter what you take or what you do if you're not in a space of safety and have set an intention on where you want to go and how you want to get there. Even if it doesn't become the path, there needs to be a starting point because it creates an openness, an acceptance that I am going to see things potentially that maybe I don't understand in the state of consciousness or I'm not aware of myself. So being open to seeing these things is incredibly important before you go into that experience. And then after that experience happens, you have received a ton of new information potentially about yourself, about the world around you, about the people that you're involved with in relationship and friendship, and family. And what do we do with that information now? Now that I know all this stuff, how do I approach it, right? Because this is an action step now. Now that I understand what's happening, how do I take action to either make that change or have acceptance around what is and make this a choice now? I think one of the most powerful things that we can receive from this type of experience is that we have a choice in what we're doing. The words, I can't do this, or I can't make this change, or I can't go somewhere. Can't is a very difficult and disempowering and limiting concept. And when I say that, I'm going to give you an example of saying, I can't go out tonight because I have to take care of my mother. Okay, let's just pick that apart for a minute. Is it that you can't, or is it that you're consciously making a decision to stay home and take care of your mother instead of going out? The reason why it's important to separate this is because saying you can't is a limitation. Saying you aren't or you're choosing not to is an empowering statement. And you could go out, and your mother may suffer for that, but it's a choice. And yes, I think the responsible and respectful choice, of course, is to stay and take care of your mother. But by saying I can't, you're losing that ability to make the choice. And so when we can clearly see what we're doing, we have a choice and we can live with intention. So it's another valuable aspect of working in these spaces. But you have to do integration processes and steps to implement this afterwards. So, working with someone's really important to do that, having them ask you questions and help you better understand what message you've received, what information you've received, and then taking small steps to make those changes because it's hard. Let's be honest. It's difficult to make big life changes, and it needs to happen in small incremental steps so that you don't harm yourself and you don't harm the people around you. Because being respectful to your life as it is currently is important with making change. And sometimes it's just a very small piece to get that process started. So, yes, pre and post work is essential if you want what you found to last, or if you want lasting results from the experience. And I think it's a missing piece with those that are doing these, having these experiences on their own and not really working with someone in a way that helps to um, help understand what you've learned and then benefit and change your life because of it. Um, you know, there's obviously a lot of safety issues that can be involved in working in non-ordinary states of consciousness as well. And safety is like the utmost important piece of having these experiences because you're in a very vulnerable state. Your mind is open. You are not capable of potentially protecting yourself or staying safe with your own personal boundaries as you may be in a normal state of consciousness. So choosing who you work with is incredibly important. You've got to trust them on multiple levels. If they're going to sit with you, if they're going to help guide you, if they're going to be in that vulnerable space with you, it's really important that you find someone you can trust and that understands what this experience is. One of the things that's very extremely helpful for me when I work with people in non-ordinary states of consciousness is understanding the timing of the onset of the medicine, right? So I'm very aware of what's happening within the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then potentially an hour. I have to be very clear about what's going on within those time frames so that I can help and guide the person through the experience. And then also to know when that medicine is beginning to wear off and they're starting to come back into consciousness and there's discomfort in transition, right? There's discomfort in transitioning into a different state of consciousness. There's a discomfort in transitioning out of that, and supporting someone through that process is really helpful to know what's going on based upon the time limit or the timing of the medication itself. I think it's necessary, to be honest. Also, different medicines have different results, and dosage is hugely important. You know, more is not better. In fact, it can be, damaging in many ways. And not enough may not create the experience you need based upon what you're looking for. So finding someone that's knowledgeable about this is really important um, because you don't want to create further damage. You can traumatize yourself within a state of unordinary state of consciousness if you're not able to be supported properly. And creating more trauma is then another pile of stuff that needs to be unloaded and worked through again. So please be um, it's not a it's not a joke. It's not a party. You want to be safe, and you want to have good results, and you want to have someone you can talk to that understands what you went through when sometimes there's not words available. Because some of the things that we learn through feeling, we learn through um, emotional impact, and some of those things don't have words. They are ineffable. And working with someone who understands that can be helpful because they may know the questions to ask to help you bring words to the experience that you've had. And when you can do that, you gain a deeper understanding of what you've learned and how it applies to your life. We have so much knowledge within. We can tap into it. It's a rewarding and life changing experience, sometimes reported as the number one life changing experience in people's lives, ranked with death um, and love. So it's not for everyone. I think if you have a calling to it and your curiosity to it, it's worth looking into. Um, and if you're unsure about it, don't do it. It's not a fad, it's not a trend, it's a tool. And it's not necessary for everyone to go into that space. And as a matter of fact, it's not necessary for everyone to do this work. Because when enough of us do this work, that are called to do this work, our being lifted will lift those around us. So please be safe. Please inquire. Please ask questions. And to the best.